You're listening to the Financial Source Podcast, your daily dose of sentiment updates in the European and U.S. sessions and critical risk event previews so you stay up to date with what's moving the market right now. Each session is carefully crafted personally by the Financial Source analysts and voiced by our AI hosts who, as it turns out, sound a lot better than we do. Here's Rachel and Michael with this session's deep dive.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we plunge headfirst into a whole stack of sources, articles, research, our own notes, really to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight for you. Today, we're tackling a pretty comprehensive global briefing. We're covering geopolitics, trade, financial markets, commodities, the works. Our mission, like always, is to give you a genuine shortcut to being truly well-informed. Find some surprising facts, maybe a bit of humor, keep you hooked.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And this global briefing, it's not just listing headlines. It's more like a snapshot of these incredibly interconnected global forces.
Right.
And our job is to go beyond just telling you what happened. We really want to connect the dots, reveal the so what behind the news.
Yeah, the context.
Exactly. Make even the most complex information digestible and, genuinely valuable for you.
I'm really looking forward to unpacking this. It's such a diverse set of topics, isn't it? From global conflicts to currency shifts, commodity movements. We're going to explore those often unseen threads that tie seemingly disparate events together across the globe.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive straight into geopolitics because, well, let's be honest, the world feels incredibly intense right now.
It really does.
Our briefing starts with some significant flashpoints, particularly in the Middle East. Israeli forces, they've entered the first stage of their planned assault on Gaza City.
Okay.
Military spokesmen are confirming troops are on the outskirts, and there are reports of airstrikes on Gaza's beach camp.
And what's crucial here, I think, are the starkly differing calls for action that are coming out of this.
Right.
So on one side, you have Prime Minister Netanyahu ordering timelines shortened for defeating Hamas strongholds, really pushing for rapid military progress.
Okay. Faster.
Yeah. But then on the other side, UN Secretary General Guterres has made this urgent appeal for an immediate ceasefire.
Big contrast.
A huge contrast, emphasizing the critical need to prevent massive civilian casualties.
Yeah.
And just for context, the UN also explicitly called on Israel to reverse its expansion of illegal settlements in the West Bank. And it's really important we clarify here. Our role is simply to report these different viewpoints, as they're presented in our source material. We're not endorsing any particular stance.
Absolutely. Just laying out the information. So moving from the Middle East, we see Europe grappling with its own security challenges.
Yeah, definitely.
Ukraine's leadership continues to press for robust security guarantees. Zelensky's chief of staff even warned against repeating the failures of the 1994 Budapest memorandum.
Ah, yes, the Budapest memorandum. That's a key reference point.
It is. That agreement, you'll remember, offered security assurances, but Ukraine gave up its nuclear arsenal in return, and, well, many feel it just proved insufficient.
Totally insufficient in hindsight for many, and this raises a really critical question for the future. I mean, what does long-term security actually look like for Ukraine, and who ultimately bears the cost?
Good question.
Our sources indicate work has already begun with allies on military planning, in case Russia escalates or violates any emerging agreements.
Planning for the worst, essentially.
Kind of. And interestingly, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has stated quite directly that European nations, they'll need to shoulder the majority of the burden for Ukrainian security.
Oh, this is significant.
It is. He said Washington intends to play a minimal role in formal guarantees.
Wow. Okay. Minimal role.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni...
She proposed a rapid response plan, didn't she?
Yes, exactly. A plan to deliver aid if Russia resumes hostilities.
Yeah.
So it highlights that European leaders are actively, strategizing on these contingencies.
Okay, so Europe's busy shoring up defenses. At the same time, we see similar, though, distinct geopolitical maneuvers playing out over in Asia. Let's briefly touch on the Korean Peninsula. Tensions there remain elevated, just reminding us that these flashpoints aren't confined to one region.
No, absolutely not. And there's a new report, actually, revealing North Korea might be housing its newest long-range ballistic missiles in a Fortified covert base.
Fortified and covert.
Yeah. And the report highlights their potential capability to reach the U.S. mainland.
That's obviously concerning.
It is. And this isn't just about general instability. It kind of signals a strategic shift towards assets that are hardened, survivable, which makes future disarmament talks far more complex.
Harder to negotiate if you can't verify.
Yeah, exactly. And it raises the bar for any potential preemptive action. It really pushes the boundaries of conventional deterrence, making North Korea's capabilities harder to monitor and potentially harder to neutralize.
That's a profound shift in military strategy, definitely. So while these tensions are simmering militarily, how are nations maneuvering on the economic front? Because they always are, right?
Always.
Let's pivot to global trade. We're seeing some really interesting shifts in Asian partnerships, maybe even as a counterbalance to some of those geopolitical pressures.
Well, what's notable here is how deeper ties and new trade formats are emerging quite rapidly.
Like what?
So China's commerce minister recently met with his Kazakh counterpart. They pledged to upgrade bilateral trade, expand cooperation in emerging sectors, think digital trade, and accelerate these new trade formats.
What does new trade formats usually mean in this context?
Often things like cross-border e-commerce, integrated logistics, streamlining customs, that sort of thing.
Got it.
And we also saw significant trilateral talks.
Yeah.
China, Pakistan, Afghanistan, specifically focused on boosting development, trade, and importantly, security coordination in that region.
Interesting grouping.
It is. And to round out the picture, Indian officials are actively deepening their regional engagement with Beijing, too, particularly around transport infrastructure and border trade flows.
So even with competition, there's this complex web of economic interdependence forming.
Precisely. Even amidst political competition, yeah.
Okay, let's turn our attention now to the financial realm. Starting with a look at currency markets, they're always a pretty direct pulse on global sentiment and economic health, aren't they?
They really are. So the dollar index, it's remained pretty stable after a mild pullback. Traders seem to be balancing a couple of big factors here.
Which are?
Well, on one hand, there's political uncertainty. Remember those reports that former President Trump considered firing Fed Governor Cook? That creates ripples.
Right, questions about Fed independence.
Exactly. And on the other hand, you've got these hawkish-leaning FOMC minutes.
Okay, hawkish meaning?
Meaning the Federal Open Market Committee, the Fed's policy arm, showed a strong bias towards tightening monetary policy. So potentially higher interest rates, really underscoring inflation risks.
So a tug of war, political uncertainty versus inflation fears.
You got it. And it creates this volatile environment where the Fed's independence itself is under scrutiny, which could undermine confidence in long-term policy stability. Makes future market shifts harder to predict,
Definitely. What about other major currencies?
Okay, quick rundown. The euro held steady. Sterling drifted a bit below 1.35 against the dollar. The Japanese yen was also steady, with the USD-JPY pair capped near 147. That's partly due to some subdued domestic data in Japan.
And down under, the Antipodeans.
Yeah, the Aussie and Kiwi dollars, they stayed under pressure. That followed the Reserve Bank of New Zealand's dovish rate cut.
Dovish meaning they're signaling potentially more cuts?
That's the general interpretation, yeah.
Yeah.
Which usually weakens a currency. And finally, the Chinese yuan midpoint was fixed stronger than expected at 7.1287. Suggests maybe some managed stability there from Beijing.
Okay. Now here's where it often gets really interesting and directly linked to both economic health and geopolitics. Commodities.
Ah, yes, commodities. So crude oil has actually extended its gains.
Upwards trend. Why?
Strongly supported by bullish U.S. inventory data. Basically, showed a larger than expected draw in stockpiles, suggesting higher demand or tighter supply.
Okay. And where are prices sitting?
Brent crude, that's one of the big global benchmarks, is nearing $66 a barrel. And WTI West Texas Intermediate, the other one is trading above $62.
And what does that mean for us, for the average person?
Well, higher oil prices can eventually translate to higher costs at the pump, obviously, but also for goods. Impacts shipping, manufacturing, pretty much everything.
Right. What about gold?
Spot gold eased back slightly. It had climbed to around $3,350 earlier in the week. But now traders seem to be waiting for signals from the Federal Reserve meeting at Jackson Hole.
The big central banker gathering, always watched closely.
Always. That's where key monetary policy clues often emerge. Copper futures, on the other hand, they kind of lack conviction. Held steady amid mixed risk sentiment. Sort of indicates uncertainty about industrial demand globally.
Okay. And there was a specific industry note, too.
Yeah. Chile's state miner Codelco projected its annual output at the El Teniente mine, huge mine, at just over 316,000 tons.
And why is that number significant?
Well, it directly impacts global copper supply.
Yeah.
And copper is absolutely crucial for everything from electronics to construction to increasingly green energy infrastructure like EVs and wind turbines. So supply levels matter.
Got it. Okay, finally, let's bring in one last significant headline from Europe. This one really highlights the ongoing fiscal challenges many nations are facing.
Yeah, this is about the UK. Chancellor Rachel Reeves is reportedly weighing cuts to the tax-free pension lump sum.
Ooh, that sounds potentially impactful for retirees.
It could be. The move could potentially raise more than £2 billion annually, and it's seen as a direct response to efforts to close the fiscal gap.
The gap between government spending and tax income rate.
Exactly, that gap. This kind of policy shift really highlights the difficult choices governments are making everywhere to balance their budgets. And for many people in the UK, it could directly impact their retirement planning.
A tough choice with real consequences. So, okay, stepping back, what does all this mean when we try to put it together?
Yeah, that's the key question.
We've covered just a sheer volume of information today. Battlefronts, shifting alliances, new trade routes, volatile currency markets, national treasuries, making these tough decisions. It really shows how each piece of information, even if it seems distinct, contributes to this larger, incredibly dynamic global narrative, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these reports from geopolitics, trade, markets, they're clearly not isolated incidents, are they?
No.
They're all part of this constantly evolving tapestry of global events, each one influencing the next. It kind of encourages you, the listener, to consider how these shifts, whether it's policy or conflict or economic indicators, how they can reverberate across continents.
Yeah, and impact everything from daily life to long-term planning.
Exactly. What truly stands out here, I think, is just how quickly the global landscape can shift and how a seemingly small detail in one area can create these massive ripples somewhere else entirely.
That interconnectedness.
Oh, precisely.
Yeah.
So maybe a question for you to think about as you reflect on today's briefing. What specific connections stood out most to you, and how might these immediate developments shape, the coming months?
That's a powerful point. And what really stood out to me today was that interplay you mentioned between the geopolitical tension and the economic maneuvering, particularly in Asia. It really makes you think about future power dynamics,
It really does. Lots to track there.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into today's global briefing. We really encourage you to keep exploring the world around you with a curious mind.
Thanks for listening to the Financial Source podcast. If this podcast helped you at all today, would you consider leaving us a review to help spread the word? Each month, we also give away different resources and indicators just to podcast listeners. So write into Financial Source at support@financialsource.co to claim your free gift today. Talk to you all in the next episode.